All right. Hello, everyone who is listening in. Welcome back for another deep dive. We're tackling a topic today that's really making waves. It's AI's environmental impact.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's something that we all, especially those preparing for the UPSC exams, need to be aware of.
Oh, absolutely. This is relevant for both mains and prelims, no doubt about that.
Definitely, it's crucial to understand the full picture.
Mhm.
AI is often touted as this economic miracle, with projections of contributing trillions to the global economy by 2030.
We're talking, what, like $15.7 trillion, something like that?
Yeah, precisely. Those are the kind of numbers being thrown around. But there's this other side to the story, a shadow, if you will, that often gets overlooked.
The environmental costs,
That's
right?
good.
I think a lot of people, myself included, get so caught up in the potential benefits of AI, all the amazing things it can do, that we forget to ask those tougher questions.
It's easy to get swept up in the excitement, for sure. So to really grasp the scope of this issue, we need to break it down step by step.
Okay, so where do we even begin with something as massive as AI's environmental impact?
Let's start with the most basic element, the hardware. All those fancy AI algorithms need powerful machines to run on.
Right, the GPUs, the TPUs, all.
Exactly. And to build those, you need raw materials, lots of them. And some of those, like rare earth metals, are incredibly resource intensive to extract.
Okay, so we're talking mining here.
Precisely. And mining, especially on the scale required for AI, comes with a whole host of environmental consequences. Deforestation, habitat destruction, you name it.
And a massive carbon footprint, I'm guessing?
Oh, absolutely. The energy required to extract, process, and transport these materials is significant. Plus, you have the added ethical dimension. The working conditions in some of these mines, particularly in certain parts of the world, are really concerning.
It's like we're so focused on the shiny end product, we forget about the messy trail it leaves behind.
It's easy to lose sight of the bigger picture, yeah.
And then there's the issue of e-waste. All those GPUs and TPUs become obsolete so quickly, it's crazy.
It's a huge problem. We're talking mountains of electronic junk, loaded with hazardous materials. If it's not recycled properly.
It's an environmental disaster waiting to happen.
Exactly. And with the rapid pace of technological advancement, the e-waste problem is only going to get worse.
So we've talked about the resource-intensive hardware side of things. Now, what about those data centers? We hear so much about them being essential for AI, but they must consume a ton of energy, right?
Oh, they're absolute energy hogs. It takes a massive amount of power to keep those servers running 24/7, not to mention cooling them down.
I've heard they use a surprising amount of water for cooling, too.
Millions of liters annually in some cases. And, water scarcity is already a major issue in many parts of the world, so this adds another layer of complexity to the problem.
So the location of these data centers must play a crucial role in their environmental impact.
Oh, absolutely. A data center powered by coal is going to have a much larger carbon footprint than one powered by renewable energy, obviously.
Right, makes sense. But even with renewable energy, there's still a significant environmental impact just from the sheer scale of these operations.
Exactly. Data centers currently account for about 1% of global greenhouse gas emissions, and that number is projected to double by 2026.
Double. Those are some scary numbers.
It's a serious concern, no doubt about it. And we haven't even touched on the energy consumption of the AI models themselves.
Oh, right, the actual training and running of the algorithms. That must add to the energy bill, too.
You bet it does. Training a large language model like GPT-3, for example, can generate a whopping 552 tons of CO2 equivalent.
Wow, 552 tons. That's hard to even wrap my head around.
Yeah, it's equivalent to the annual emissions of about 125 cars.
Seriously, so training one AI model is like driving 125 cars around for a year. That's insane.
And remember, that's just the initial training. The ongoing use of the model, what we call inferencing, also consumes energy, and often even more than the initial training.
It's like a never-ending cycle of energy consumption.
You got it. Plus, you have the energy cost of storing and retrieving all the data that AI relies on.
It seems like every step in the AI lifecycle, from the physical components to the digital processes, comes with a hidden environmental price tag.
It's a complex issue, and unfortunately, there are no easy answers.
So it sounds like we've got this incredible technology with the potential to revolutionize so many industries, but it also comes with this significant environmental burden.
Hmm.
It's almost like a double-edged sword, isn't it?
It is a challenge, no doubt, and it's something that, policymakers and aspiring civil servants, especially those listening in who are preparing for the UPSC exams, really need to think about carefully.
Right, because finding that balance between technological progress and environmental sustainability. Well, it's not going to be easy.
Not at all. It requires a nuanced understanding of the complexities involved. It's not just about saying AI is bad for the environment and calling it a day.
No, definitely not. Because if we can harness the power of AI in a responsible way, it could also potentially help us address some of these very environmental challenges we're facing.
Absolutely, it has that potential. And the good news is there's a growing awareness globally about the environmental impact of AI.
Oh, that's encouraging.
Yeah, for example, it's being discussed at international forums like COP29, and you see more and more ethical guidelines being developed for AI, specifically addressing the environmental considerations.
Okay, so awareness is growing. But are those discussions translating into concrete actions?
Yeah.
Are we seeing any actual policies or regulations being put in place to curb AI's environmental footprint?
Well, that's where things get a little bit tricky. I'd say the policy response overall has been a bit slow, lagging behind the technological advancements.
So there's a gap between awareness and action then.
Yes, there is. I mean, you do have some legislative efforts underway, both in the EU and the US, aimed at tackling this issue, but well, concrete policies specifically designed to limit AI's carbon footprint, they're still relatively scarce.
Especially, I imagine, in those national AI strategies that are popping up everywhere. A lot of those seem to be really focused on economic growth and technological advancement, maybe at the expense of environmental concerns.
You're right. A lot of them do seem to prioritize economic gains, maybe hoping that the environmental issues can be addressed later down the line.
Which is kind of a risky strategy, don't you think? I mean, kicking the can down the road on this one.
It is a risk, for sure. But I think there's also a genuine struggle to figure out the best way forward. How do you regulate AI in a way that promotes sustainability without stifling innovation? It's a tough question.
It's like trying to hit a moving target. AI is evolving so rapidly, it's hard for regulations to keep up.
It really is. And there's also pushback, from industry players who worry that strict regulations might slow down progress or put them at a competitive disadvantage?
I can see their point too. But at the same time, we can't just ignore the environmental costs. We need to find a way to make AI development more sustainable.
Right. Absolutely. And that's where the concept of, sustainable AI comes into play. It's about finding ways to design and use AI in a way that minimizes its environmental impact.
So less resource-intensive hardware, more efficient algorithms, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Investing in renewable energy sources for data centers is another big one. Imagine data centers powered entirely by solar or wind energy.
That would make a huge difference, wouldn't it?
A significant difference, yes. And strategically locating those data centers in regions with abundant renewable energy resources.
That makes sense. Think about places with lots of sunshine for solar power or strong winds for wind farms.
Exactly. It's all about making smart choices from the start. And here's something really fascinating. AI can actually play a role in optimizing our energy grids.
Oh, interesting. So we can use AI to make AI more sustainable.
Precisely. Google's DeepMind, for example, has used machine learning to significantly improve wind energy forecasting, which helps to integrate wind power more effectively into the electricity grid.
That's pretty cool. But what about the hardware itself? Can we make the physical components of AI systems more eco-friendly?
We can, and we should. Developing more energy-efficient computing components is crucial, and regular maintenance of those components can go a long way, making sure they're operating at peak efficiency, reducing waste.
Right, squeezing every bit of performance out of them so we don't have to replace them as quickly.
Exactly. And on the software side, there's a lot of research being done on making AI models themselves less resource intensive.
So finding ways to achieve the same level of performance with less computing power, basically.
Exactly. There are some promising advancements in algorithmic optimization, making those models more efficient. And there's also been progress in developing specialized hardware specifically designed for running AI workloads, which can further reduce energy consumption.
So lots of potential solutions on the technology front then. But what about the bigger picture? How do we ensure that sustainability is baked into the entire AI ecosystem?
That's where transparency and accountability become essential. Organizations developing and deploying AI systems need to be open about the environmental impact of their work. We need standardized frameworks for measuring and tracking emissions so we can compare different AI solutions and encourage companies to adopt greener practices.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about the entire culture surrounding AI development.
Exactly. It's about fostering a culture of responsibility where environmental sustainability is seen as a core value, not just an afterthought. And that requires a shift in mindset, not just from the tech industry, but from policymakers and the public as well.
And for those aspiring policymakers listening in, those preparing for the UPSC exams, what can they do to advocate for this kind of sustainable AI development?
Well, first and foremost, they need to educate themselves on the issues, understand the complexities, the challenges, and the potential solutions.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in, that's for sure. But it's also incredibly fascinating, wouldn't you say?
It really is. And it's a perfect example of why, for UPSC aspirants, you know, those preparing for those tough exams, understanding these kinds of complex, interconnected issues is so crucial.
Absolutely. It's not just about memorizing facts. It's about being able to connect the dots to see the bigger picture.
Precisely. And this topic, AI's environmental impact, it touches on so many different aspects of the UPSC syllabus. We're talking about technology, economics, environmental science, even ethics.
Right. It's like that classic Venn diagram where all the circles overlap.
Yeah.
So for our listeners who are maybe taking notes right now, trying to make sense of all this, what are the key takeaways they should really focus on when it comes to AI and its environmental impact?
Okay, so first and foremost, remember that it's not just about carbon emissions. It's about resource depletion, ethical sourcing of materials, the e-waste problem, all these interconnected challenges.
Right. It's a whole system. We can't just focus on one piece of it.
Exactly. And it's a global issue. It's not just something happening in India. So understanding the international agreements, the forums, the ethical guidelines that are being developed around AI, that's essential.
Okay, so that's the global perspective. But obviously for the UPSC, you need to be able to relate it back to the Indian context.
Absolutely. How can India, a nation with such huge ambitions in the AI field, also become a leader in sustainable AI practices? How do we balance rapid technological development with the need to protect our environment?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Finding that balance.
It really is. And it's the kind of question that you might very well see on your mains exam. So be prepared to think critically about it, to offer solutions, to show the examiners that you understand the nuances of this issue.
Great advice. Because it's not enough to just say AI is bad for the environment. You need to be able to articulate the complexities, the challenges, and the potential solutions.
Precisely. And the more you can connect those global trends to the specific realities of India, the better. Think about the policies, the regulations, the initiatives that are being implemented here. Are they effective? Are they sufficient? What more can be done?
Really good points. I think we've covered a lot of ground today. It's been a truly insightful discussion. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us.
It was my pleasure. These are the kind of conversations we need to be having more of, so I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. And a reminder to everyone listening that today's deep dive was based on insights from The Hindu. So make sure you check out their coverage for a more in-depth analysis.
And if you found this deep dive helpful, please do hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment below with your thoughts or any questions you have. We love hearing from you.
We do. Until next time, happy studying, everyone.